Hello everybody, welcome back, and I am TheChornick, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to review Pokemon XYZ episode 28. Wow, this episode, we got a lot to talk about. We got to go in depth, and wow. Dude, alright, this episode was pretty solid. This was like a 9 out of 10 at least, an episode. Now, I had mixed feelings about this. When I first saw it, I felt like I wasn't satisfied with it, but it took me a little bit, but after I looked over it a little bit more in depth, I realized that this was definitely like a 10 out of 10 episode, and how solid and great this episode was, especially with the flashbacks. The flashbacks really made this episode what it is, and even the Amore shipping too made this episode what it is. So let's begin, shall we? Now the plot, alright, the plot was kind of weird for me. It was kind of, that's why it was kind of throwing me off. This episode just seems so different from all the other Pokemon episodes in a way, and that's why I felt so weird, and I didn't understand kind of how to feel about this episode. But that's why I guess I love it so much now, is because it's so different and unique and kind of depressing in a way that you get to look at it from a different angle. Now, from the beginning of this episode, we know that Ash ran off into the forest because he's mad at himself. He's trying to find, you know, who he is and all that good stuff, and he gets all depressed and runs off into the forest. And so Serena at the beginning of this episode worries about him, right? She's in love with him and everything, so she cares about him, and she runs off into the forest to try to find him and try to get him to come back because she's worried about him. She wants him to be safe. And then while she's doing that, Pikachu, you know, sends out all the rest of Ash's Pokemon. And Pikachu tells them, he's like, guys, look, Ash ran off into the forest and he's mad at himself and he hates life and blah, blah, blah. And so the rest of the Pokemon start getting all sad and they start going crazy and they start punching trees and flying in the air in circles, and Pikachu starts iron-tailing rocks, and I'm guessing they were trying to strengthen and, you know, train on their own for Ash, and they try to make themselves better, and they go crazy kind of like what he's doing right now. So it's kind of cute and neat to see that, but that was really, really important to see how, like, all the Pokemon are acting like Ash at this point. And it's not just going to be centered around Greninja and Ash, but Pikachu and the rest of the Pokemon as well. So as that's going on, Serena obviously meets Ash in the forest, right? She finds him, and they start their little conversation. Now, this conversation is really, really, really important. And I could go on and on about how important this conversation is, and how Amore shipping is so important to Ash, and how it's so important to who he is. It is a catalyst, in this episode at least, for showing us who he is, because it's showing us that there's a reason why Serena loves him, and the reason in why... Let me go back a little bit, because I'm going to start getting carried off. Serena likes Ash for who he is, right? And Ash needs to realize who he is. He needs to return and become himself, and to stay himself. The kind of lesson of this episode is that you need to be yourself. And no matter how hard you try, you can never be anybody else. No matter how hard you try, you can't be me. You can't be TheChornick. But no matter how hard I try, I can't be you. Because that's how unique and special we all are, is that no one could be exactly like each other, right? So Ash needs to be himself. He has to not change form, which is basically, I think, is what Wulfric was trying to say with his little water and ice metaphor. Ash was like water, is like Wulfric was saying. He changes form and tries to adapt to situations differently. But that is why Wulfric likes ice types, and why he likes ice is because it's solid and it doesn't change form, and it doesn't have to. It's the same thing, and he realizes that you have to be the same person. You have to be yourself, and that's what Ash was not realizing, and what Serena in this conversation was helping Ash realize. And she was trying to get him to come back, and he got angry, and he stood up and yelled at her, and he was like, "Shut up, go away, this is my problem, leave me alone." And Serena got pissed off by him saying that, and she's like, "You're not the same Ash," and she's, you know, "You're like this guy who never gives up, and you're this person," and she understands who Ash is. Okay, and that's why Amore shipping is such a beautiful thing, and why Serena is such a great character, and why I truly believe that Amore shipping, I have to say right now, Amore shipping is canon at this point. Why Amore shipping is such a beautiful thing, and what's probably one of the best things to ever happen to this series. Alright, one of the best things that ever happened in Pokemon in general, because it's telling Ash who he is. And Serena knows who he is, and that's why she loves him. And she was about to even confess. Actually, she was about to confess that that's why she loves him. And she was like, "That is why but she didn't say it. She kept herself from confessing. But she was telling him who he is, right? And she started hitting the snowballs and ran off because he wasn't understanding. And he got smacked in the face by one of the snowballs, and he was just kind of laying there on the ground and trying to just looking up in the sky. And he finally came to and snapped to it. And she finally snapped him out of it, right? And so he started running off and realizing what he was doing wrong, and that he needs to become himself again. So Serena runs back, and she gets all pissed, and she's sitting on the bench, and they're all like, she's just ticked off, and everyone's just kind of wondering what's wrong, and she won't talk to anybody, and she's just, you know, she's just kind of ticked off, you know, a little couple argument there. But then Pikachu runs up, because the blizzard's about to start, and so Pikachu's like, "Hey, we gotta go search for him," and Serena's just like, no, and then she just looks away, and then Pikachu's, you know, keeps saying Pika Pika, and Serena's like, "Fine, I know," and then she like gets up, and then she realizes she has to go save him. Even though they had their little argument, she still, you know, has those feelings for him. She still realizes he needs help, so they run back off into the forest to find Ash. Alright, so then we have Greninja hating himself. He ran off earlier, and he was sitting on a tree, and snow was falling off him, and he was smacking the tree, and he was hating himself too for losing to both Sceptile and the Avalugg, however you pronounce that Pokemon's name. And he ran off. Now, Poonie-chan, by the way, aka Zygarde, transformed into the 10% Zygarde and ran off to find Greninja, and told Greninja where Ash is. Once that happened, Greninja found Ash, and they realized what they were missing, and they transformed into Mega Complete Perfect 100% Ash Greninja form and saved the Pokemon in the blizzard, right? And this is when all the flashbacks happened, where Ash like remembered why he became a trainer in the first place. And to me, this truly shows a sign that this is his last journey, because we're seeing all these flashbacks to who he is as a person, and why that's so important, why he became a trainer in the first place, and so he finally perfects his 100% form, perfect form with Greninja. And it's just all these minor details in this episode, especially the flashbacks, were fantastic. And then obviously near the end of the episode, when Pikachu and the gang finally find Ash, you know, Ash apologizes to Serena and tells her, "Thank you for all your words. They opened my eyes. I see who I am now," and all that. And so that's why I really love Amore shipping even more at the end of this episode. And I thought it wasn't really prominent at first when I first looked at it, but then when I looked back at it and looked at from what other people were saying and from the translations, Amore shipping is stronger than ever, and that's why I have to say that Amore shipping is canon right now, because the writers acknowledge that it's existing, and they aren't the previous writers, and they aren't afraid to throw stuff into this episode like the previous writers were with, like, the fact that it's a kid episode and everything, but that's not the point. this episode really shows who Ash is. And I know I'm kind of getting carried away, but that is the most important part, is that this is kind of the climax to Ash's journey of this season. And even towards the end of the episode, we see flashbacks of Ash and Froakie, and how Froakie handed him the Pokeball to capture him. And then now Greninja stuck out the Pokeball and was like, here you go. You know, it kind of having the same kind of thing going on. It was so cute and so cool. And they saw on the TV the building of the Kalos Lake. And dude, it's just getting so epic from here on out. And there's so much more to talk about in terms of this episode, but I feel like I've been carrying on for too long. And it looks like Pikachu's going to be used instead of Hawlucha for the next, which I don't understand why, because Hawlucha won, but yeah, right? Pikachu's the only one that Hawlucha's the only one that won a battle in the last Wolfric match, but yeah, Ash is getting rid of him and using Pikachu for it. So, but I think Pikachu is needed for it, especially because Pikachu is training hard, and even against Team Rocket in this episode. But in the end, fantastic episode. I love all of you guys. Thanks for watching. I really feel like going into depth with more about Serena and Amore shipping and why that's important and why it's really showing that it is going to be canon and everything. But maybe I'll save that for another day. But for now, guys, thanks for watching this. Sorry if I carried along too long. I appreciate you watching this all the way through. I love you all. Can't wait to see the next episode, see the rest of the series. I wish you all the best of luck. I love you all, and peace off! Thank you very much.